Welcome to another edition of RF Videos Behind Closed Doors. We're here with Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff. Glad to have you back.
So? Okay, I'm joking. It's glad to be back. Was that a pretty shitty way of starting it?
No, that's fine. That's fine. Behind Closed Doors is more about the psychology of the business and everything. There's no doors here, but we're pretending there are.
Yeah.
But like when you first started out in the wrestling business, what were like the first things that you were taught by like the veterans, like how to get over with the crowd? Was it more, were you taught like more psychology in the beginning with the crowd, or was it more about the moves? What was the most important thing when you first started?
Oh, I would say to keep your mouth shut and do a lot of watching, listen, watch. Watched every match there was. You know, I was the type of guy that I was blessed with a tremendous amount of energy, a streak. You know, having that a streak in you.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it was a mean streak, but I used that to my benefit in a lot of things in the sports and. You know, things I've done all my life. But everything I've ever done and every dollar I've ever made has been with my body. And, you know, that was it. I mean, that's how I made my living. And so the first things you do is watch and you listen and you learn. Keep your mouth shut.
So when you first came in, you were pretty comfortable with yourself in the ring?
Absolutely not.
No.
Real shy guy. Very shy.
Mm-hmm.
Never, I can remember in the beginning walking out there with my trunks. You don't know how hard that was. And it was just the opposite, very unsure. I mean, my gracious, you don't walk in a ring with 3, 4, 5, 6,000 people out there and be sure of yourself. Mm-hmm. At least I sure didn't. What I was sure of, though, that I was sure of my body, and I was sure that I was going to do this because I wanted to.
Right.
I had it in my blood, and I wanted to do it. And anything that I wanted to do, truly wanted to do, I did.
Now, when you first started out, what territory was that again? Where did your first matches?
I first broke in was in Florida, Tampa, and which was the toughest place to break in wrestling. I mean, you know, when you have the Briscoes there, and Eddie Graham, and Steve Kern, and the Ortons were there, and Bob Backlund was there, Jack Briscoe, Jerry Briscoe. I mean, they had some serious athletes, Bob Roop.
So starting out for yourself is a lot different than I would say starting out with wrestlers now on like indie shows where there's 100 people and a locker room of a lot of guys who haven't made it. I mean, when you started out, I mean, there was real stars there, and every night was thousands of people.
Yeah, and well, let me say, it was about 7 or 8 months before I even had a try, even before I went to a match, as far as being in the ring in front of people, actually. Where I came from, also, you had to prove yourself. You know, I was invited every day after the matches. Hiro Masuda, that's who trained me, and he said, "Come back tomorrow." This went on for about 6 months. Come back tomorrow.
So he saw something in you, obviously, to invite you to come back.
Well, he saw that I wanted to do this.
Right.
You know, and then you had people like Hogan that went there, and his first trip, his first day was to the Tampa General Hospital. You know, so
what happened with that?
That tells you, well, Hiro was the type of guy that he wanted to see if you really wanted to do this. And he was going to do whatever it took for you to get your stuff and leave. And of course, Hogan left in an ambulance. He really messed up his leg, and he stretched his leg out pretty good. And, of course, I'm not cutting him down for that, but he just ain't the man I am. I mean, let's face it. I
Right.
mean, he played a guitar and I played in the NFL. Case closed.
Now, do you think? I mean, you had a lot of training at the power plant with WCW. You were involved with a lot of that. Did you incorporate a lot of that, like what you were taught when you were younger, into
Very
how you
excellent
weeded
question.
those people up?
Excellent question. I just wish I knew the answer. That's exactly what I did.
Right.
That's all I knew how to do, and I thought it was the right way. You know, I had those kids doing just that. You know, of course, I would have been even a little more rougher on them, but yeah, maybe that wasn't necessary. There's ways of working around it. But I tell you what, they all did. They all cleaned the toilet.
Right.
I had them all cleaning the bathroom and everything else, and everybody did it one time or another. I did too.
Right.
They never did a thing that I hadn't done.
What made you more nervous starting out? Like you were saying, you were nervous with the fans and everything, but you started out. Was there any of the wrestlers who you were kind of like nervous to be around, or maybe were extra hard on you because maybe they saw something in you but wanted to like see if you had it?
No.
Was Matsuda though the toughest on you?
Well, that's because he was my trainer, and he knew I was going to make it. I mean, he knew this, and he put me through it because, you know, there again, everybody that I, you know, being college ball and just got back from the NFL and this and that, you know, he wasn't going to make it no cup of soup. I mean, you know, he was going to make it as hard as he could get. And, you know, and when I talk to different people, whoever it may be, until this day, it's the toughest thing I ever done, you know, and I can't deny that because it's the truth. And it really was the truth. And yeah, that's the way it was.
Do you think one of the problems with wrestling these days, I mean, since you were involved with the training and even nowadays, it seems like everybody's a wrestler. Do you think that that's a problem, that so many people are in wrestling and they haven't had the training and like in the dojo like you did and everything like that, and there's just so many people that are wrestlers now? Do you think that, that's a big problem now?
Yeah, I mean, just because you're a wrestler don't make you a wrestler neither, you know.
Right.
Because you got a gun doesn't mean you know how to shoot it. I mean, just because you go to college it doesn't make you smart. The art, the true art, is gone. There are people out there that do know how, that are still living and breathing. But at the rate it's going right now and what I see, and I'm not cutting it down, it's not a cut. You're asking me my opinion about the way it was then and the way it is now. Night and day, not even close. Do I think some of these guys could be? Maybe. You don't know. You know, and it takes a number of years. If you think you can go in the dressing room with a guy and put together your whole match, you know, like Randy Savage does and some of these guys, well, that don't work. That's not psychology.
In your opinion, how long would you say from start?
5 years.
5 years?
That's what I was told.
Is that what you felt with your career?
Maybe sooner. I had a little sooner.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate enough to work or to be around some guys that were pretty good workers. We always, you know, the Santanas and the Destroyer and some of these people, Buzz Sawyers and Kurt Hennig and Rick Rude, and I was a little ahead of them, but still a lot of those guys and the guys I just mentioned were in this at the same time, and we had watched enough and been with some of the older fellas, and all we did was the psychology of it. They was the 70s, we jacked it up to the 80s,
Right.
you know, and the 80s to the 90s, and basically we all, you have to change. I mean, the 70 Packers definitely are different than the 80 Packers, right? I mean,
Right.
football, you change. Everything changes, the athletes changes, everything. I mean, it changed, you have to change to a point, but the change in from what the 80s were into what it is now, It's
Two different
Yeah, I mean,
other ends of the spectrum.
exactly.
Would you attribute maybe your quickness in learning everything in the business from the shape you were in from the NFL? And how important is to be, when you're starting wrestling, to be in that top physical shape?
That's the name of the game. Let me tell you something. If, you know, if you really want to do something, and I used to tell these people, I'd get letters, get tapes, blah, blah, this and that, all the time from when I was at the power plant. Wanted, and I'd call them back if I looked at their pictures and this and that and seen their background. First thing I'd tell them, I'll give you 2 or 3 weeks, be in shape when you come here. Be in shape. Because that, to me, that tells me, I give you a notice, do you want to be a wrestler? And I tell you to be in shape, and then you come, and within 10 minutes you're puking.
You're not ready.
How bad do you want to get it, be it? And you're expecting something for nothing. I mean, what do you want? A paycheck as soon as you... No. To me, you just blew it with me.
Right.
And trust me, we did that to them. It happened all the time. All the time.
What do you remember starting out your first matches? What was the one thing that you were the most nervous about going out of your first match? Was it the opponent you were in? Was it messing up? Was it the crowd?
Golly, I had so many different thoughts going through my mind. I was very, I can tell you this, little story here, and it kind of works into this. Actually, after I was in Florida for a while, it was time for me to move on because I didn't really work but 1 or 2 days a week if I was lucky. And that's him telling me, okay, it's time to go. So anyway, Tennessee, Mr. Fuller wanted me to come there, so I did. And I was there for about 2 or 3 weeks, and finally, and I forget the fellow that told me this, he said, Paul, you're going to have to start basically doing better or we're going to have to let you go. And I went, oh, you're kidding me. And what was happening is that I was waiting for somebody to tell me what to do. And when he told me that night, it was like the light just came on a little bit. I was doing stuff that I was doing stuff that I knew I could do, and I'd been working on, but never has done it because the guy I was with was an old-timey guy. He didn't want to do nothing. All he wanted to do was making me look bad.
Right.
And one night, and then after the match, I came back and the same fella, he said, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. Why haven't you been doing that? Because this guy didn't really, I didn't say that.
Right.
So that really put a scare into me. It really did, because I said to myself, this is a way for me to make a living with my family. And for me, Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, to be told that you better, start doing something. It
Lit a fire.
Yeah, but it was an honest mistake. I don't know what you would call it, but I was put with the wrong people in the beginning.
Did you find out with tennis? What territory? Maybe Florida or that Tennessee, Alabama, Florida territory. Was there a lot of, in that time? I guess in the late '70s, was there a lot of veterans? Like older guys maybe held down the younger guys, sandbagged. There was a lot of that.
Sure.
Who was like the worst in particular? It was like notorious for like keeping the young guys down.
I don't want to mention no names.
No. Who was the best vet at that time? Helped you out? besides Matsuda as your trainer, like what guy like really took you aside and helped you out, or was there any, or was it like that?
Um, Steve Kern
Mm-hmm.
was good. Bill Watts helped me a lot. And a lot of the guys, you know, you'd be surprised. One thing about some of these older time guys, if you wouldn't ask them, if you didn't ask them, would you watch a match or could you give me some insight? What's wrong? What's right? What should have? What shouldn't have? A lot of times, and they won't say a thing to you. But if you asked them, then expect an honest answer on most of them. And that's what I did. I'd asked them. Jimmy Snuka was a real big influence with me because Jimmy helped me a lot. Buck Robley, you know, people that you might not heard of a lot, but there was a lot of, you know.
Mm-hmm. How was Dusty? Did Dusty watch your stuff, or was Dusty in Florida at that time?
Yeah, Dusty was in Florida. He was really huge, you know, huge. Dusty huge everywhere he went. You know, he just had that charisma. And
Did you start out as a heel or babyface?
No,
You were a babyface.
no, babyface. I never really became a heel till really till, I mean, when I came up here, really, in New York,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you, where I really,
Were you comfortable as a babyface down there?
I should have been a heel.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, that's me. You know,
How was Did you adapt well to TV matches at that time? And what was your psychology going into a TV match compared to a house show match? Was there, you know, kind of now how you would have with WWF, or WWE, WCW, TV, fast, real hard, house show, kind of take it easy? Was it like, it wasn't like that back then, was it?
not with me, it wasn't.
Right.
No. I just know that when you're on TV and everything is faster,
Mm-hmm.
you know, has to be. That's just the way it is. I mean, it has to be. We don't, because of time restraints, you know, you just don't, you can't do that. You got 5, 10 other matches, you know. Everybody took 25, 30 minutes of, it's just impossible. So actually TV was okay with me because there again, my energy level was kind of made for TV. You had TV guys, you know, you had guys that were really good for TV because they didn't really do a lot or whatever it is, and TV was good for them. Bill Goldberg's, you know, Bill ever went over 3 or 4 minutes. You kept him around 3 to 4 minutes, and he was great. But you get him climbing up a ladder and doing this stupid stuff like that.
He gets exposed.
But he was very intense, 3, 4, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, not much after that. You know, he was hot. This kid could have been so really hot. And that's I'm not cutting him down or something. I'm just saying he came to my mind in this time. But he was a good TV guy.
You worked as a babyface. Was there any babyface? What babyface wrestler, you know, taught you the most, or did you watch?
I just, it's all about watching.
Who did you watch? Who did you enjoy watching? And that you thought, I'm going to learn the most by watching this guy?
Jimmy Snuka was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy.
What set him aside? What did you?
He had it. He had it fire, and athletically he was good.
He had that, I guess, X factor.
Body.
The fans just cheered for him.
I
Right?
mean, well, he was good. Of course, there was a lot of other guys too. Now, don't
Right.
get me wrong, but I would put Jimmy, because Jimmy was quite a bit ahead of me, and Jimmy to me really stood out.
How was Eddie Graham as a, I guess, boss? How was he to you? Good.
He was very nice to me. He's the one that gave me my start.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the one that gave me the chance. But you have to realize too, I'm from Florida, and they're again blessed with being very athletic, and I was the type guy that they were looking for. So he needed me and I needed him. So let's face it. It was a good thing, and he knew, and he gave me the chance, and God rest his soul. I really thank him for that.
Did you? How was Mike Graham?
Great, right. Great little worker. Great. I mean, he knew it all.
Right.
I mean, he had it all, man.
Did you train with Backlund
Yes.
and Briscoes? How are they?
Well, Bob is an animal
Right.
when it comes to training and everything. He was just different than I was. Jack, I didn't really train a lot with Jack, but somewhat. And he was collegiate champion and everything like that. And you watch those guys because they were, Jack and Jerry as a tag team. They were, intelligent, college educated. Plus they had their background in amateur wrestling. So watching them two was and I took some of that. You see, to me, I thought, I'm an athlete. I'm not a truck driver or play bass guitar or any of this.
Right.
I'm an athlete. I need to do things that are different and athletic.
Now you trained under Hero, and Hogan was there. Who else was there? And any other good Hogan stories?
No.
No.
Actually, he wasn't there right when I was there.
Right.
He was before me, and then I was there a little later on. As far as us, actually, no, that didn't happen. But he broke in there as well. He just a little before me. Brian Blair was there.
Was Honky Tonk Man? Was he in at that time? Because Honky Tonk, we did an interview. He always said like he was with Hogan in the beginning, and Hogan and Beefcake would always like sleep in his car and everything. They were like a group for like a year. I think Tampa, but then more Pensacola. Were you around?
Could have been.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. No, not me.
Okay.
But there's probably truth into that. Yeah, that's just the way we all, no golden spoons or silver spoons here or there.
Now, did you find when people think of Paul Orndorff and like Jimmy Snuka, a lot of the guys, you look at these guys are athletes, like you were saying. Did you find it hard, like especially with the house show schedule in Florida and everywhere, to keep in good shape? And what did you do to maintain the shape you were in?
What did I do?
Yeah.
I got up, I ate breakfast, I went to the gym.
How many hours a day?
The gym?
Yeah.
I was a good 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Good solid 2. I wasn't the type of guy that stayed out all night and everything. Because, hey, my body's my money, and I knew that, and I had goals. I had things that I wanted to do. And, I mean, all this just wasn't I wanted to make some money. I wanted to make big money. And that's, I'll never forget it. Steve Curran said, it will. He said, Paul, you're going to make it. You're going to make it big. You'll see. Sure enough. Never forgot it.
We did a little research. Somebody came up to us and said, I'm not sure about, there was a story about a fight between you and Tony Atlas. Is there truth to that, or? And what happened?
We had what'd you hear?
I just heard there was a fight. That's where I'm asking you. I just heard there was a fight.
Oh. Well, we just had a little misunderstanding, and we just pulled the car over.
Oh, really?
Bit half his ear off.
I didn't hear that.
Spent a week in the hospital.
Wow. Did you find that a lot? Was there a lot guys fighting a lot? Was there a lot of
No,
fighting?
just me.
Just you. Who was the toughest guy in the locker room at the time?
I don't
You?
know. I don't know. Things happen.
Right.
Things just happen. Just happen. You know, I'm sitting in the back seat and getting all wet, and told the person to pull the car over so I can dump this water out of the cooler. And they didn't want to do it, and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to kick your white ass. And I said, well, Brian, pull it over.
What was the what was the hardest thing for you to grasp as a young wrestler? One thing that you had to work on the most in developing yourself?
Psychology. I say to grasp that, I don't even know how to explain it. It's something that you got to keep doing and doing and doing and doing and doing and doing. And you think, well, okay, I won't do this tonight because I did this or that. Well, I didn't do that, but I did 10 other things. So it's a challenge. Does that answer your question? You know, no?
Kind of, yeah. It's something that just comes with
Yeah,
just working at it. Experience.
It's not easy. Yeah, you got to watch. I mean, there is so much to it.
It's just something that you get. Do you think that's a problem with today's wrestling when guys are working 4 times a month instead of when you guys are working 30 times a month?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Has a lot to do with it. But even if these guys were to be working 30 times a month, if they're working with each other, they're not going to get any better. You know.
We've done a lot of interviews. A lot of the veterans say that Eddie Graham was the best finish guy in the business. At that time, do you agree with that? And how would you come up with a lot of the finishes?
Now, a lot of mistakes that were made and are made is that they don't need to be drawn out over 2 or 3 pages. And sometimes they were like that. It's the whole match. Well, a lot of times to me it needs to be simple, something that people can grasp. I mean, some of these shows you go see, and if you can't understand what the heck the deal, what's going on, that's not very, doesn't do nothing for me. You know what I mean?
The fans lose attention. The fans lose it.
Yeah, you want to, you know, and it should be between the 2 people. It depends on their skills. There's a lot of varieties in there that what, you know, how it needs to take place and this and that. And that's why me and Hogan, you know, hell, I had good matches with him. I mean, you think I cut him down a lot, but it's not really that. I just,
It was a simple formula.
yeah.
Maybe less is more.
Yeah, just bust your butt in that ring. That's what Eddie Graham said. Those people out there work for $10, $15 an hour, some of them 5 or 6, and they go to the matches and they give them their money's worth. And I can honestly say, sitting in this chair, I tried to do that. I never forgot it.
When you started out in Florida with Eddie Graham and all that, what was most important? What did Eddie Graham, Dusty, these guys, what was most important in your match? Selling, the psychology, the finish, or the actual bumps in the matches? What was?
Probably the bombs. That's easy. Anybody can. That. All the other stuff, you know, you got so much going through your head, you just can't imagine. At least I did. I mean, I wanted to do this and be so good at it so quick and so soon, and it's not that easy. And I would say that because that's probably the easiest thing. At that time, that's what you're doing. I mean,
Early in your career, or even throughout, there's different styles of wrestlers, high flyers, the collegiate guys, the amateur, the powerhouse guys. With you wrestling, what style did you have?
Everybody's. A bit of everybody's. I could do that. You know, I could do a little of all of it. All of it. Think about it. I could amateur, I could take, I could do it all. That's where I was different.
Do you think, like a lot of wrestlers now, especially, they don't go for the pin early on, like especially in title matches? Do you think that's a mistake?
Absolutely. Heck yeah. I mean, try to beat you. Absolutely. Doesn't it make sense?
Name of the game, 1, 2, 3.
That's what I think. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Before you went to New York, you did Florida. You talked about Fullers. What other territories did you?
Charlotte,
Charlotte.
Tennessee, Bill Watts.
How did Watts take to you since you were a football player?
Me and him got along.
Yeah.
He fired me several times. And I quit. But on the end of it, he had his own private plane. And he'd always call me, "You want to ride with me in the plane?" And I got to be good friends with Bill Watts. I like Bill.
You think he's misunderstood?
Very intelligent. Eddie Graham taught him everything.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Graham taught a lot of people a lot of things. He was one of them. And Bill was on the roll. Bill really had it going and did very well there. Bill Watts is a smart fella.
In that 70s, late 70s, early 80s era, who would you say was maybe the best promoter of them all? Eddie Graham? Watts? Or what do you think the best promotion was? Or they were all different, in your opinion?
Well, the best promotions where you're making good money.
Mm-hmm.
And they all were. I mean, Bill Watts was great. See, Bill, one thing about Bill was the type place that, like Eddie, would send you to Bill. And you stay with Bill 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. And basically, that's what I did off and on, off and on. But he'll send you there for at least a couple, 3 years. That's where you're going to learn. First of all, you're going to drive ungodly miles.
That was the worst, right?
For $25. And then y'all going to fight to get to bed in a hotel room. So everybody was sleeping in each corner of the room and then the bed.
Right.
So you're learning everything there. You're learning humiliation. You're learning everything. And that's the way it was too. I mean, there'd be 4 of us a lot of time in the car, or 3 of us. With the hotel rooms, and you stayed at the cheap places, and you ate all the buffets because you could eat, that, and you did all that because you wasn't making no money.
Right.
And it took at least 3 years, 2 to 3 years.
A lot of discipline.
How?
A lot of discipline. Even on the road discipline.
Oh yeah, Bill. Speaking of being disciplined, Bill would fine you.
Mm-hmm.
See, Bill was all these things. You were late. He was like a coach, man. He was brutal as far as discipline, and that's kind of what he did. I mean, see, he was teaching me.
Right.
And whoever else, but he was teaching you. You get to the town, you be there an hour ahead of time, you do this, you do that, you get in trouble. If you have a belt and get beat up, I'm firing you.
Did that happen to anybody?
To Bob Orton.
Bob Orton? Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
He had the belt, and he got beat up in the bar, jumped and beat him up. Bill fired him the next day.
Wow.
So.
Did you work Japan at all at that time? New Japan?
I didn't work till Japan till, if you want to hear this story.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I was with the NWA. Do you remember when we were on Channel 17, going around?
Mm-hmm.
And when Vince started to take over, I got a phone call from Ernie Ladd. Ernie said, "Paul, you need to give Mr. McMahon Sr. a call. He wants to talk to you." Well, I waited a few days, called him, and blah, blah, and this and that. And, Ole was the booker there with Turner.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted me to sign a contract but it wasn't, it wasn't guaranteed me any money or this or that.
Right.
And although I was making good money there, I mean, and I got along with Ole.
Right.
Ole was a different cat too. But I like Ole. I liked him. But anyway, so Mr. McMahon, when they were going to start this whole thing, and it was a gamble. Of course, listen, you got to gamble in life sometimes. You got to gamble. And I said to myself, and from what Ernie told me, he said, Mr. McMahon says he's going to do this, he's going to do that, he's going to do it. And then New York was the place to go. And let's face it, back then, if you went to New York,
That was the Mecca.
yeah, absolutely. And, to be at Madison Square Garden and all this and that. And so I told him, I said, and they were going to be starting, this whole thing was going to start, and it was about 8 months from the date that Ole wanted me to sign these contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So what he did, he said, I'll take care of you. And he sent me to Japan and took care of me for 8 months, paid my bills. I mean, I made enough money through him and everything without starting up there or anything. And that went on for about 8 months. And then, anyway, I told Ole and
Right.
those people, I'm not going to sign it. And that's where all the promoters and everybody were all panicking, because by this time, they heard what was going on, and some of us were jumping ships and to another.
Was there a real big panic among all the territories with Vince?
Yes.
Started with Vince Sr. though, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But Vince,
Right.
but Vince Senior, because of his name, reputation, and everything, nobody knew Vinny. Nobody knew him. So they had to start with his, his dad. His father had cancer.
Right.
And so anyway, I remember about 8 months later, we were in Allentown, and here we go.
Mm-hmm. Now Japan, how was Japan? Just talking
Oh.
40 minutes here, it seems like you would
Oh.
you would like Japan.
Couldn't stand it.
Really? Okay. But you didn't like the matches or the training? Nothing?
No,
Nope.
no.
Really?
I could have went to so many different colleges to play football. Florida State, Florida, Miami. I had letters from practically a lot of colleges.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed home, University of Tampa. Could have went to Miami, like I said, could have went to all these places. Because I didn't like leaving my house and away from my family. And I chose to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
When I left and went there, and I'm married now,
Mm-hmm.
and I was over there for a few days, I about went nuts. I tried to get to find out where the airport was. I was leaving. I was coming home. Heck with this.
Really?
Trouble is, there's not any airports in some of these towns that we were in, and it just so happened. I was over there for 4 weeks, and it
Seemed
was
like 4 years.
yes, it was brutal. Everybody had black hair, everybody wore white shirts, and everybody had blue dress pants. That's the way it was, and I couldn't stand it. But the more times I went, towards the end, it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, been away from the house, and finally grew up and went through that stage of being away.
Going back to Watts, Mid-South, that Oklahoma territory, how was your training in Florida and all that? Was the wrestling the same, would you say, in the Mid-South area with Watts, or what would you say Watts made it different demands, or?
Bill, he had a lot of young guys there,
Mm-hmm.
and he had some older fellas, but he had a lot of young guys, and he was like a coach. Bill was like a coach, and he knew how to he knew how to handle everybody's personality, and that's what makes a good coach. You get a coach like a Woody Hayes, which I'll tell you right now, there ain't no way I could have played football for Woody Hayes. If he slapped me, I would have sucker punched him
Right.
so quick. I mean,
Watts
he
was
just-
kind of like that, Woody Hayes?
No,
Or no?
no.
He wouldn't hit the guys?
No, but he'd get on you. He'd get on you.
Right.
But he wouldn't push you or
Right.
do that. No. But he was the type of guy that he still had that old college football hurrah in him, in his
Right.
blood. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he got us all pumped up, and he was.
He fires you guys up
Yeah,
like it's you guys
yeah.
are going to Rose Bowl or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, and he talked to you, and he'd tell you what's right and what's wrong. You should have done this.
Did you agree with a lot of what he was saying?
Probably not, but
No.
I didn't know nothing.
Right.
I mean, I had, no, I listened. I tried to be a good listener.
Who you said like he was like a good like almost like a coach. Who would you say didn't listen? Who did he like have a lot of arguments with, or what guys stood up to Watts when you were there? Was there any, or he had pretty much everybody in line?
Oh, he had you in line, otherwise he'd just fire you.
Right.
It's that simple. Ask that question again.
He said he was good at
Yeah.
with the people. What
Okay.
guys like stood up to Watts, and what guys were always fighting with Watts when you were there? Was there any, or
Dick Murdoch.
I heard Murdoch kept peeing in his pool or something when they were doing TV tapings, and he would just do stuff like
Murdoch. But Bill loved Murdoch too.
Right.
But he'd all the time play jokes and stuff on him. Different stuff.
Any good ones?
He was a trip. Well, stuff like that. But he would. I'm sure probably somebody did, but I never. I tried to get along with everybody.
Right.
And I don't remember much about it. But sure, I mean, towards the end, and if I'd been with him, I'd disagree with him. Yeah, I would.
During that time, there was many territories. During that time, what Eddie Graham taught you, even Dusty taught you to draw money and all that. Was it different throughout the territories? Was there a different philosophy from all the bookers on what their idea of making money was, and what was Bill Watts? What did he say was like? How sometimes they say red turns to green and all that.
Mm-hmm.
What was Bill Watts' psychology towards drawing money compared to like Florida or even Georgia or something like that?
Well, he knew how to put the right two people together.
Mm-hmm.
He knew how to. You don't put a racehorse against a mule.
Right.
I mean, sometimes you can make it happen, but to me, when you got two racehorses in there, I don't know about you, but I think that works a little better. When you get different kinds. Bill was good at coming up with good ideas and putting two guys in there that would could work together good. And then it's up to you. Then it's up to you to make it happen. And he had a bunch of young, spirited guys there that would do that too, man.
Who did you enjoy working the most down there?
Up there,
In Watts, Oklahoma, Louisiana.
Aaron Ladd,
Did he,
Junkyard Dog.
did those guys take well to you? Was there a kind of a code with the guys if you were a football player? Did the football players stick together, or that wasn't?
No,
How was Ernie Ladd?
good.
Good.
I like Aaron. Yeah, he gave me my first break as far as my first angle and everything.
What was that angle exactly?
Working against him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he saw buzzsaw there. He knew it.
Mm-hmm.
He knew it then. That's what he did it. I'd only been in the business about a year and a half, and then he, bam, throws me into an angle. Well, that's great.
I heard some horror stories about the heels in Louisiana and all that. Are you glad you were a babyface? And what was the craziest thing you ever saw with the fans in Watts territory?
Oh, yeah, they were pretty bad. Oh, you cut your tires. I've had razors.
Right.
I've had bottles, rocks thrown, batteries. Of course, I had that in New York. A lot of bad stuff there in the beginning.
What fans were the worst, though? Louisiana, that area, or New York?
Both are pretty
Both?
good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had some. I got one of those little whiskey bottles that you get on the airplane.
Right.
And they had the regular glass.
Yeah.
I got hit there, split me. Oh yeah, man, I had a bunch of stuff. Yeah, that's no fun.
No.
But the South was pretty bad.
Right.
They were.
There was a lot of territories you were in and everything. And the TV show was obviously an important tool for those companies to draw money.
Mm-hmm.
What company or what promotion did you feel had the strongest TV show? And the main thing about a TV show is the interview. Were you comfortable with doing interviews, and who taught you the most?
At the time, I would have to say Georgia. Remember when they had 17, which they were the first that went everywhere.
Ohio, the whole...
Yeah, Virginia, all over there with cable. If
Right.
you were on that, then you were, they were the Vince McMahon of the 70s, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, that they went everywhere. Bill Watts really was the first guy to do
The music and the videos too, wasn't it?
well, that and
Wasn't his son Joel? Didn't he do all that? Wasn't he the producer? Joel Watts?
not when I was. He might have been down the road, but did the first big dome. The dome there, and
With Hayes and Junkyard Dog, was it the Freebirds? And
yeah, I was on the first one. I was against Bruiser Brody. I had the belt. Then you had Junkyard Dog was with somebody. You had the Freebirds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could 32 or 33,000 people.
wow.
That's the first one they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was
Good paydays then on those dome shows, or did you get paid more for the dome shows, or at
Yeah.
that time was it just the same?
Yeah. You got paid more. Of course, I felt I didn't get paid enough, which I did for the work I did, so I
Right.
quit.
Right. Who was the most at that time in the territories like Florida and all that? Who was the most over babyface you saw? Was it JYD?
Yep. In Louisiana, Tommy Rich. Tommy, JYD was over. Tommy was really over because at 17,
Mm-hmm.
at that time he was real hot. Because he was over everywhere. And they would bring him in certain territories. They would bring Tommy in even up there for Bill.
Right.
They'd bring him in. People loved him.
Who booked the Georgia? Was it Ole when you were there, or was he the booker, or did he have a lot to do with it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ole was, I think Bill was a booker too. Yeah. Bill Watts was a booker there too.
Okay.
Yes, he was.
Did they get along?
I
Yeah.
Who knows? They were, I wasn't in that
Right.
league or class or whatever to know. Probably sort of.
After Mid-South and all that, is that when you went to Atlanta and everything?
I went from Tampa
Mm-hmm.
to Tennessee,
Okay.
to Memphis.
With Lawler.
Yeah. Then from Memphis to Bill Watts.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went with Kansas City office.
That didn't do. That kind of.
Well, I was only there about 2 weeks, and then I was working in St. Louis,
Mm-hmm.
and because I just went there with him, and Harley was, champion there, and world champion, and I went there with him because he was going to help him,
Was Harley the best overall worker probably at that time?
Yeah, I mean, he was great.
He was the man.
Yeah, I mean, he was world champion. Yeah.
Did you get many title matches, or?
Yeah, I had a lot of them, quite a few, especially for Bill Watts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, every time 1 hour.
Yeah, I saw a thing. They had a thing on one of the sheets about all the hour draws, and
Yeah, I
You had a lot of them.
A lot of them.
Any different preparation going into that, or did you feel that you were in good shape where you could just go out and do an hour?
Oh, I could do that, no problem. But that just shows you the kind of man that Harley was, too. I mean, see, Harley was a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't have to do that. He taught me.
Right.
He gave me a whole hour. I mean, think about it. That's what kind of fellow he is. I have the utmost respect for him.
And at that time, when you're the champ, you got to go everywhere. And when you go everywhere, you're on top and you got to deliver.
Yeah, it's, I mean, easy. And he sure did. 1 hour. And we turned out great.
After St. Louis, where'd you go?
That's where George Scott,
Mm-hmm.
George Scott and Ric Flair came up to me after my match. George did,
Right.
mainly, and asked me, I want to go to Charlotte, team me up with Jimmy Snuka. Well, I just ain't been in business that long, man.
Right.
A year and a half.
But that was big to you, right? Because you
Yeah.
looked up at Snuka.
Yeah, but I also told him too that I just committed to these people here.
Right.
You know, I've been there for 2 weeks, and I said, you know,
Right.
I just didn't feel good about that. You know, me coming there and blah blah. Even though I wasn't making nothing, but you commit, and I was going to commit and give it a while. And if it didn't work, you know, I would have left. But just to get there for 2 weeks, and he said he would talk to him, and he did. And then I went to Charlotte. No problem.
No, I don't think that's. Do you think that loyalty was a trait of a lot of wrestlers then? Because that doesn't seem like it was like that. And do you think maybe you being loyal like that at times, do you think that hurt your career sometimes, or did it help in the long
Being
run?
loyal or not being loyal?
Being loyal. It seems like you were being loyal at the time, but like
Yeah, I was.
that helped your career in the long run. Do you think, or do you think it might have hurt your career?
You mean by doing that?
Yeah.
No, it didn't hurt nothing. Nah. Because I went back and ended up working for him every now and, you know, making a
Right.
shot here and a shot there. Nah, it didn't hurt that. Listen, that territory was so bad. No offense,
Right.
but it was bad.
Right. But there were so many different promotions, and like nowadays, it seems like with the wrestling companies, everybody's fighting. There's a good relationship between most of the promoters at that time, correct? And or what promoters didn't get along? Was there like a? Was this pretty mainly everybody mad at Vince
Yeah.
when he started taking everybody?
Oh, yeah.
Like the time of Harley racing, Harley like took a shotgun or something to Hogan or something.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what
I don't know.
I heard that.
It's possible, but I don't know.
Right.
Tell you what, it wasn't a happy time. But you know, a lot of these guys, and from what I've heard, that even Vince offered some of them, you know, will work with me with it, and they didn't.
Right.
So either you're with me or you're against me. And I'm almost positive when I say this that he did offer just about all of it. And knowing his father, that's the way he would have handled that. I offered him, you want to help me? I mean, you're going to work with me? I want to go into your territory and run this big show, this, that. You want to be with me or against me? They chose not to.
After, where did you go after that? Charlotte. And how was Flair? Did you get along good with Flair?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. From there, I went to Pensacola.
Mm-hmm. How was that tour?
I needed a break. I went there, and then I got a call Now this is before I went up, WWF. This is before. Then I got a call, Ernie again, said, said the senior wants to talk to you about coming up there. And I told Ernie, I don't think I'm ready to go up there yet. I just didn't feel ready.
Right.
But I called Mr. McMahon and did that, and I didn't go there. And I had the opportunity to go before that.
And turn them down.
Yeah. Worse, it was bad because I'd probably been the world champion there and everything else. But I didn't feel like I was ready to go to New York. I'd only been in the business 2 years, 2.5 years, but I would have done real well up here. You look back and you think, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. Well, I didn't.
Right.
I should have went.
I have some notes here. There was you worked at WWF TV shows, but they had at the TBS studios. Is that true?
What now?
They had WWF TV. They taped them in the actual studios in TBS in Atlanta. Is that true that they did that, or?
I think it was only for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Did you work them, or?
I don't remember.
Right.
Tell you the truth. It's you mean when they first took it over?
I guess it was like '83 when he bought didn't he buy the cable, the show?
Vince?
Didn't he?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Maybe so. I don't remember.
Going to WWF, which was the Mecca at that time. When you first went there? How they treat you, and how was the matches?
Great.
What did Vince tell you to do to get over? Or was he
Nothing.
You just did your thing.
Yeah, you just try to get over yourself. And I did.
When you started out, you were a heel?
No.
No, babyface. Who approached you to become a heel?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at all the talent and I saw everything there and I saw this and that. I went.
You thought that would be a good fit for you?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the way that was set up with the locker room with the guys?
Mm-hmm. Very done. Yes, done. Terry Hogan. He had good ideas. He was no dummy. I mean, he had good input. Of course, we all had input, but and that's how you work it out, and it worked out. They had some good minds. They sure did.
Who did you gel with the best? Maybe not even in the ring, but like mentally in the locker room, and who took the most time to like help you adapt to the promotion at that time?
You mean as far as office people and everything?
Not like wrestlers, like who tried to like show you the ropes, kind of make you feel comfortable in and out of the ring.
Just everybody as just being a part of the same thing.
Because you knew most of the guys anyways.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I knew most of them.
Right.
Right.
Coming in, was there anybody like trying to like cut your legs out from under you? Was there, or everybody was pretty welcome to you being there?
I'm sure there probably was, but at this point I couldn't, everybody's going to, there's jealousy, everybody's jealous of this or that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, somebody was going to lose their job.
Right.
Somebody wanted me to fall out of my chair too.
Right. How did you adapt? Different wrestling fans, obviously, up in the Northeast and all that, with the big arenas. How did you adapt?
Well, I knew this. I knew what they've been subjected to for many years. And I knew that if I came in with my style and my aggressiveness and going and really getting down, they'd buy it because they used to have nothing but big guys, and they just sit there,
Just put it on a hold and
do nothing. And I went, this is my opportunity. And I did. I mean, that's what I thought.
right.
And you know something?
That's what you did.
Clicked. That's when I became a heel.
Cool.
Because they didn't have nobody.
Now, you were a babyface for most of your career, and this is something you wanted to be a heel. You came up with it. Were you comfortable in the beginning as being a heel, and who did you watch? Because you said you watched a lot of people. And was there anybody you patterned yourself?
No, not really.
Kind of natural
I
almost?
all I did was just did the opposite of what I used to do.
Right.
And all I did was come out a different door and became really aggressive and more aggressive than ever.
How did you develop your promo skills, your heel one at that time?
Just doing them all the time and all the time, you know, just doing them until you finally try to, you know, if you say this, but you do this, you know, I always tried to do what I said, you know, for one thing.
Right.
To go up and, you know, people know when they're being BS'd. I tried to keep it as close as.
Do you think you could, like today with WWE, how they have scripted promos, scripted matches? Do you think you could do that? Do you think that hurts the business when there's wrestlers, when there's writers, TV writers?
Yes, I mean, if you're sitting in the audience and they do this out there, have you ever noticed them how they're just.
It's like they're trying to remember in their head.
No, it's not that.
No.
It's just that the match isn't getting any applause or anything from the people. There's got to be, you know, my job is to get you upset or happy. And it's up to me to have you, here I am with a bunch of little puppets. And it's me that controls these puppets. You know, I'm the guy that's telling them when to move, when not to move, when to get up, when to get down, when to smile, when to hate, when to spit, when to cuss. That's my job. You know, and if you're not doing that, you don't draw money. So that there's no interaction with the people and the guy in the ring. There is none. You're ahead of the horse. It's like what that old saying is, the buggy pulling the horses, whatever that saying is. You know,
Right.
It's ahead of it. It's not. The timing's off. Everything's off with the response of the people. They've seen every bump there is. They've seen a guy died. You know, they've seen it all. You don't have to do all that. That's the sad part about it. They're doing all this crazy stuff. And if they only knew some psychology, I could go out there right now, without a doubt. I know I could. And still do it.
Mm-hmm.
If my body would permit me, which it won't. But I could still do it. At least I think I could. Give me a little time. It may take me a little longer. But even when I was doing it, it took me longer maybe to get over.
Mm-hmm.
Once I'm over, I'm over.
Do you prefer being in a company where, like especially like Memphis, and a lot of times even like WWE now, where the promo is obviously more important than sometimes the wrestling is? How important do you think the promo is in being a good heel?
Depending on the person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got, for instance, like Dusty. How important and how good were his promos? They were good. You know, so his promos were very important to him.
Right.
Some people can talk it, some people can walk it. You know, in my case, I thought I did okay with both. Well, I know I did. You got to learn. You got to learn what to say, when to say it too. I mean, promos are very important. Very important. That's just a third of the game. I mean, you got, you know. That's very important. Yes, absolutely.
Coming into WWF, who was the couple baby faces that you enjoyed working with?
Tito Santana.
It's the best.
Excellent.
Why was he so good?
Because he was hungry.
Mm-hmm.
He, athletically, not near as good as me, but he was athletically, he was good, big, strong, had a lot of fire. And of course, after I told him, I did some research and found out what a Reba meant. And it meant swim a little faster, the border guards are coming. After that, he didn't like me anymore.
Who else was good back then?
Good back then.
Steamboat?
Yeah, Rick was good. Excellent. Brian Blair was good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just because it maybe not been big names, but there was a lot of guys they were good guys. Buzz Sawyer,
How crazy was he?
crazy. Yeah.
Any good stories? And there's a lot of people that have a lot of good stories.
Buzz, yeah, he was out there. He wasn't a real big guy, but you know, he was just a nasty old type guy. He was like Ole Anderson, except with a lot more. He had more engine power.
Right.
You know, he could just go. Yeah. But Buzz was good. I like Buzz. He was good. He came up here in New York, and you know, back then, New York had a lot of guys that's been up here for a long time, and a lot of times you would have to work with them. Depending on your attitude, they can make you or break you.
Right.
And somebody had just had their appendix taken out, not too far, you know. I mean, it was okay to go in the ring, but it's still tender. And when you tell a person, well, don't, you know, stay away, but then he does it anyway, about 3 weeks later, Buzz was gone. See, nobody wanted to.
Right.
That's it.
Did you enjoy having a manager like Bobby Heenan? Did you think it was necessary?
No.
You didn't. Did you enjoy having Heenan, or?
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, it was all right. Bobby taught me as well. You know, you learn from a lot of people, good or bad. But Bobby Heenan knew his stuff. Did I think it needed one? It really didn't matter what I thought. I mean, naturally, and the reason why I would say that, because I wanted all the attention.
Right.
In other words, it's just me.
You didn't want to share the spotlight.
Right. And it was probably good. You know, it really was, but that's just my thinking, you know. I overthink everything.
How did you come up with the pile driver as a finish? And how important do you think a finish is?
Well, I think it's very important. You know, I mean, that's the beginning of the end. I mean, once you do whatever you do, and then here, okay, the next thing is that, and every time you do that, it's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's huge, especially down the road. I just saw the way people did it. You know, I saw how they did it, and I went, you know, because I used to squat 5.5, 600 pounds, no problem. You know. So I had a lot of my legs. I had a lot of leg strength. You know, a lot of power in them. And I said, well, what if I, you know, I just thought this out and figured it out, you know, and boom. And I used to do it. I used to just take like a dummy, have a dummy, and do it, see if it worked. And I used it for about 12 years, 15 years.
Anybody ever refused to take it?
You know, I'm sure there were. I'm sure there were. But never hurt nobody.
Right.
Never.
How do you feel like today with today's wrestling when, you know, the pile driver, the DDT, they're almost like setup moves. They're not. Everybody uses them. They're not a finish. Do you think that's one of the main things that's really hurt? Is the selling of the moves?
How many house shows they run a month now?
WWE? Probably 20, 25. 2 companies.
2 companies?
Yeah. 12 each.
Yeah. Do they sell out any of them?
No.
But that's your why. You know,
What?
hey, you know, they say, whether this is true or not, when you die, you almost resort back to when you were a baby. Well, that's what this business needs. It needs to go back to the basics. All the way back.
Do you think the fans can be reprogrammed?
What else are they going to do? It couldn't be any worse than it is now, could it?
Good point.
Could it?
Nope.
So you reprogram them again. And they've had, I hear this, and I mean this, I hear this so much that people just quit watching it. It's vulgar. It's all TNA. And no offense to the girls, no offense. But when you got girls on there and you expect them to draw a show, you know what that means? It means you're desperate. And that's what they are. They are desperate. And it ain't working. And it ain't gonna work. Why do you think he went to the stock market? Why do you think he did all these things? Hell, he knew if he had to depend on what his house shows and everything are now,
You'd be out of business.
he'd be doing just what, you know, these little promotions are doing. Yeah. He'd be out. He knew that.
Do you think it was a mistake when he, exposed it as
Absolutely.
sports entertainment?
Absolutely. Him and Hogan both did.
Do you think Vince knew that it was coming and he wanted to do that?
Well, that's what he was going to do.
Right.
Yeah, sure he knew it was coming. Because he didn't want to pay taxes.
Did he get a lot of heat with the wrestlers?
Sure.
Yeah.
Did with me. Yeah, how are you going to say one thing and you do another?
Yeah, it's...
You don't insult people. I don't care what anybody says. There's people out there, the ones that either turn you on or turn you off. Buy a ticket or don't buy a ticket. I don't care. I don't care what he says or anybody else. If everything they say is right and everything, then why in the hell ain't they drawing these big shows and stuff? Why are they giving away all the tickets to the TV shows and this and that?
Right.
How come?
Nobody's buying.
Nobody's buying it. Oh, it's because of this. There's too much competition and this and that. Well,
Do you think a house show market could come back if it was done right?
it's going to take you some years.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. See, all they're doing is all they're shooting for is men that are 18 to 36 years old. They've taken away from the kids.
Right.
Hey, you know, remember it used to be back in the 80s and everything? It was all about the kids. You get them kids in there and this and that, and then you're going to bring mama and daddy and grandma and everybody else. Now, It's all TNA, 18 to 36. Bro. Please.
Do you think the cruiserweight style of wrestling, do you think that exposes the business? The flips and all that?
Yeah. Not for me. I mean, am I cutting these guys to do it? Yeah, it's too much. No psychology. That's Mexican wrestling. You know, that's what they do in Mexico. Did Mexico get the biggest city? They could probably do anything over there because you got so many people over there. No, yes, I do.
Did you ever have any instances in the power plant when you were teaching there where guys came in and thought they knew what they were doing? And
Oh yeah.
what was the worst guy ever, like some guy off the street tried to do in the power plant when you were training? Like it was just the most ridiculous thing.
I've had guys come in there that felt like getting in shape and being in shape wasn't important. That they could do it, they've seen it, and they knew that they could do it. You know? And that is so easy to expose somebody. And yes, can I name instances? That happened quite often. Where you get guys that, or they worked somewhere else, and I go in there and tell them to have a match, and we'll film you. You know, see how it does. Let me see how you do. And then you get the match and you looked at it.
Right.
It was funny. Of course, that's the way I look at it. These guys they got today and everything, I don't know.
Was there ever any instances in the power plant where maybe not necessarily you, but one of the other, almost had to stretch people to teach them? Do you believe in that theory?
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If it comes, yeah. Oh, yeah, I believe in that. You kidding? Yes, there's a time. Yeah, I never forget it. It wasn't there at the power plant, but worked with a guy in Tennessee, Shreveport, never forget it. Gave a power driver. I always would tell you, stay there. Don't get them. They'll help you. And if you saw it, which you did, it looked it. Had a guy there that did it. I'm doing an interview.
Popped right up.
Oh, it was bad for him. And there again, he worked for a little group, and his guy said, don't lay there. Whoever you're with, don't look bad because you work for me. Yeah, that was his attitude.
Right.
And,
Speaking kind of, what's that?
he made a bad mistake.
Yeah.
That hurts me.
Exactly.
Hurts the company.
Hurts everything.
Yes. Bill Watts went nuts. I didn't have a choice.
You had to, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't have no choice. Bill was going nuts. Well, I was too.
Right. Speaking of, maybe kind of like that, back in like WWF back then, they had enhancement matches for their TV. Obviously now you don't get that. Do you think that's a good philosophy for your TV to have enhancement matches where the guys look a lot stronger than wrestlers, or
No, I think you need competition.
competition?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. If you watch on TV, you get these guys that get a warm-up match. You see these guys that's had 18, 20 fights, and then they put a guy in there that's had 4 fights. My God, he's not even, and it's so obvious. I mean, it's all, you know what it does? It almost, for a heel now, it's okay with a heel. Because you almost feel sorry for the guy. He got knocked out so bad that he's still laying there, you know. That doesn't, well, I'd just as well do an interview than to do that. If you want to see me wrestle anyway, come to the show tonight. Let me do the interview. Don't need to wrestle every night, as long as the people know you. Listen, too much of anything ain't no good.
Right.
Don't need to be on TV every week, especially after I've been there for 2-3 years. Right? I mean, too much.
People get tired of it.
Yeah, well, they done seen everything, you know, give them a break.
Everybody talks about pro wrestling, WWF. This is a big man's territory, especially in the 80s. What kind of pressure was there on the wrestlers to do steroids?
None.
None?
None. I can honestly say that. None. If you did them, you know, there wasn't no testing or anything back then. Never ever were we ever asked to take or any of that. And I can say that. You know. I would say if he did, I would tell you he did.
Right.
But he didn't.
What, especially now, maybe your opinion as an athlete, now with baseball and professional sports, how they're cutting on steroids, what's your opinion? What do you think is going to happen with steroids in, like, mainstream wrestling, especially with a lot of the wrestlers dying? Do you think there might be outside with the government or something?
That ain't due to steroids.
What's that?
That's, these guys dying and stuff ain't got nothing to do with steroids. It's got something to do with the way of their life and how they've lived. And you're young. You're an alcoholic. You've been an alcoholic since you were 18, and you're 40 years old now. So now you're still trying to keep up when you were 18. Well, sooner or later, it's going to catch up with you, right? It's going to catch up with you. You know, and for whatever reasons.
How bad was the travel schedule with all
Horrible. Vince, when we first started, it was the worst I've ever seen. I'd be gone from my home. Matter of fact, that's one reason why I got hurt, and one reason why that, I had movie parts and everything. And that's what upsets me about McMahon. You know, I had parts to do Rambo. Sly Stallone had the part. He wouldn't let me do it. I had other parts in different movies with different people. Miami Vice, I had stuff with him. I've had other couple parts. And the asshole wouldn't let me do them. You know, if he would have let me do them and got some rest. Brother, I was working 4 and 6 weeks every night, sometimes twice on Sunday. You know, Hogan didn't work all those days. He didn't work as much, and if he did, he was doing interviews and stuff. It's a big difference in banging yourself around every night that you're a main event for 25 to 30 minutes a night. It's a cause why I got hurt. And if they'd let me do a couple of these things, you see, because I might have got over too damn good. I might have been competition with Hogan. Because at one time they were cheering me as much as him. And that's all I need. I mean, let me do a Rambo. Think what that would have done for me. You know? Think.
Do you think at 20 years later,
pissed me off. Yeah,
this was now, you would have been on the movies the way Vince has everybody?
You're damn right I would have done it. I would have done it back then. But no, that's where my loyalty, I stayed, and I made a mistake because I listened to him. I should have done it. I should have done it. I had the part. God be my witness. I had it.
For Rambo, the lead.
It. I had it. I was a Russian. You know the Russian helicopter?
Right.
That was it. That was me.
Really?
And then he said, "Welcome to your new career." And then the next Rocky come out. You know what he liked about it? Was this? That square jaw. That's what it was all about.
Wow.
And you don't think that eats me to this day? You know? You look back and you say, I wonder what if I could have done that. Because, you know, about that time I was, you know, I looked good. I was, what, 38 years old, 40, you know, just, you know, I had the body if I had to look for. I had it. I had it. He wouldn't let me do it.
Now, in my opinion, I think during that time, especially with the house shows and everything, you were Hogan's obviously most successful opponent. When you look at the house shows and everything, do you feel that you should have had the belt?
Absolutely.
How close were the
Dude.
discussions to make you the champ? And whose main, was it Hogan that didn't want to drop it? Was it Vince?
It's probably both of them. If you think about it, during that time, it was to the point where the people were about half and half. To me, it would have given him an extra kick, especially to me, because, you know, I was worthy of it. I mean, it was not as if it was a Randy Savage that had it, or the Sheik that had it. Please, come on, let's get real. If they'd done that, had it 4, 5, 6 months, do you know what that would just given him another surge, which he needed. You know, it would have.
I remember the shows in Philly. I would actually go. They were the first shows I went to. Sell out. Then they come back with somebody else. You weren't a 8,000. Then you come back with a sellout. And then they. There was that big of a discussion.
Me and Hogan?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You guys were selling out and everybody else wasn't.
That's right. And the assholes didn't treat me right.
How come you never, at that time, even the Intercontinental belt was big. How come you never,
I never needed
you
it.
didn't want it? Okay.
I could have had it.
Right.
But if you get it, you got to lose it.
Right.
So why be for that? Please.
Do you think the importance of titles has died?
Back then it was.
No, now it's,
It's a joke.
yeah.
Especially when you've had some of the people that's had that pot title. Listen, you don't put that on. Well, I ain't mentioning that. But you don't put it on. I mean, listen. You look at a man, and you're walking down the street, and you see this guy, and he's your world champion. That's my thinking. And like Bill Watts said, if you're my champion and you get your ass beat in the bar, you're fired.
Right.
It happened. And they fired him the next day. That's my take on it. Of course, they did it their way, and look at the houses. Everything is went.
Going back a little earlier, when you were a heel with Piper, how did you enjoy being with Roddy as a tag team partner?
It's odd.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything? Did you get along well with him outside the ring, or?
It was all right.
Mm-hmm.
I always did all the work when we were tag team partners. Of course, that's why they tagged me up with him.
Right. Going back to George Scott was the booker back then.
Don't like him.
Okay. My question was, WrestleMania 1, George Scott was the booker. Did you have a good relationship? Is that why
He
you were?
didn't last long, did he?
No. Didn't like him.
He's close.
Okay. Going into WrestleMania, a lot of people, some people say that when Mr. T was in there, how'd you feel about Mr. T being in there?
Now, anybody other than a wrestler, I didn't like.
Right.
That's my mentality. Was it good for the business? Probably. Because he was he was a bouncer and won some of these things, and he's, to
For-
the people out there, they thought he was a tough guy.
For being a non-wrestler, was he capable for that spot? In
Yeah.
your opinion? Okay.
Probably, yeah.
Was he tough, do you think?
Didn't knock me out or anything. I mean, he was
Did you, Piper,
playing with him.
did you, Piper, Orton, even Hogan have a plan if he was to, like, say, not go along with the show?
Hmm.
What was talked about before? Or did Vince tell you anything?
Well, we just do what we needed to do, that's all.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
but-
that was in the back of your head there.
Oh, absolutely. When it brought up.
Interesting. Some people say Jimmy Snuka, he had a few problems beforehand. Some people say that he was supposed to be in the main event at WrestleMania 1, I guess, with Hogan instead of T. Do you think that was punishment for some of the things Jimmy Snuka happened, like with the girl and everything in the hotel room? Is that true? And some people have said that he didn't get the WrestleMania main event because of that.
I have no idea. I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any idea.
Right.
Mr. T was a good move.
Right. Mainstream.
Mm-hmm. Brought a lot of people, at that time and everything. I don't think it was that,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Right.
I think it was just a good move of bringing somebody in, Cyndi Lauper, she was hot. That just went to show you where it was headed.
Smart, Vince. You thought Vince was smart.
Well, in the
Badass.
beginning, sure. I mean, when something this big and you got everything banked on it, that's no. You better get all the ammunition and everything you can to bring those yippies or yuppies or whatever you want to call them in, and that's what we did. We made it the happening thing,
How did
Sit
you
down
have
and
your
watch wrestling?
right? How did your life change outside the ring? I mean, you were on MTV, and you were a mainstream celebrity, 85, 86.
Yeah. Well,
Did your life change?
Yeah, my check did.
Right.
Yeah, it changed. I don't know how to say it. Now, I know it sounds like I'm all the time bragging about this or that, but I've always been in athletics and I've been in sports. I've been around and people knew me other than in wrestling. So it wasn't that. I mean, it wasn't. Did I get a big head or anything? No. Matter of fact, to this very day, if you don't hunt and fish and chew tobacco, I don't know you. That's the truth. Except beside a guy today, John Woods, works for a pharmacy company right here in New York. We got to talking this and that. He said, I've seen you somewhere before. And I went, Paul Orndorff. He said, yeah, I used to watch you, when I was young.
Right.
We get talking. He's from West Virginia. Well, I'm from Winchester, Virginia. And one thing leads to another, and we get talking, and I said the same thing. If you don't hunt and fish and do stuff like this here, I don't really have a lot in common with people. I'm just that's the way I've always been.
I was actually born in Winchester, Virginia.
No.
Where?
Are you kidding?
I
me?
swear, I lived in Charlestown, West Virginia, for till I was 6 months old. My father lived there. My mom divorced him. I moved to Philly when I was 6 months. We were just there last week at a show. We were on I-81.
You kidding me?
Winchester.
That's true, man.
Winchester Memorial
Patsy
Hospital.
Cline. That's where I was born.
That's where I was born. Winchester Memorial Hospital.
How about that?
Maybe you guys.
Uh-oh.
My
You never know.
grandfather was a horse trainer at Charlestown Racetrack.
I had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Well, isn't that something? That is strange.
Nice to meet you.
Same here.
Yeah.
You didn't know any of the Orndorffs there, huh?
No.
Up there? My brother's brother owned all the dumps and sanitation. And,
Oh, really?
Yeah. Owned grocery stores there.
I'll ask my mom.
You ever heard of a Buddy Orndorff that used to drive a pro stock dragster on TV, ESPN?
Mm-hmm.
A relative?
Yeah. Wow. All I know is my grandfather was the trainer at the horse track at Charlestown races.
I'll be darned.
I've only been there a couple times in my life, but I think we actually drove through last week. We had that show down
I'll be darned.
in Waynesboro.
Well, you need to have a show in Winchester.
I bet it would draw up
You
there.
can get the TV and get the radio. I mean, get the newspaper. There you go. I'm telling you all this stuff here. While the fans here listening to us talking about this, but I'll be darned. That's pretty neat. Where are we at?
Oh boy, where are we at? Oh, the heel turn with Hogan. How did that come up? Whose idea was that? And was there anything you would have done different with that? No.
No. Hogan's is a smart guy. I mean, he no dummy. He'd already worked with a couple guys already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's a guy that they really hadn't done a whole bunch with, which was me. You know, look at, I was coming on, man. I was making my own. I didn't get no green light.
Do you think they could have stretched it out to WrestleMania instead of having the match with Bundy?
Oh yeah, yeah, we could. Absolutely.
How come it kind of just, after that cage match, it just kind of...
No, that's it. That's what a cage does.
Yeah.
It's
But even off of that, with the finish, with the two sides, I still could have thought you could have even gone further,
yeah,
in my opinion.
we could have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would have been a good time to take it. Right there. 6 months.
Now,
See, and I could have. Well, no story.
I know it.
Um,
Okay. Did you feel like, who did you work at WrestleMania 2? Santana, I think, in LA.
Wasn't it Morocco?
Morocco, maybe, yeah. It was when T wrestled Piper, Hogan, Bundy. Did you feel it was almost a step down?
No. Oh, it sucked. No, it was in Long Island, wasn't it? Didn't we have a WrestleMania?
Yeah,
in Long-
Nassau. Yeah, it was
That was it. Yeah, it was this. I was done and I knew it.
I guess you turned on Piper, I believe. Was that?
Yeah,
You know, Piper had the feud. Did you like working with him?
to a point.
Mhm.
To a point. I'll tell you the point when the camera's turned off.
Okay. Now, what happened after that? Did you you left pretty abruptly, didn't you?
Yeah.
What
My arm.
your arm?
My arm got so bad.
What was the actual injury?
Nerve damage, man. That's it there, brother. That's it. I did it. My career was done. When that happened, it was over. Costed me meals. Well, that's the way it goes, ain't it?
Right. How did do you think Vince treats wrestlers well that are injured, or do you think there should be like a pension kind of?
He didn't treat me very well.
Right.
Well, in his mind, he thought that I screwed him, by leaving him.
What was his side of the story? What did he say? Just that you left?
Yeah, he thinks I did him wrong. The fact of the matter, I didn't do him wrong. I couldn't do anymore. My arm, I don't think they realized how bad it was. I don't think he realized. And I think that the information he was getting from certain people, thinking that I did it, and that's why he hasn't used me or nothing. Oh, why?
How important do you think the crowd is for you? Do you let the crowd dictate that your match?
No. No, that's where it gets fun. Do just the opposite.
Do you think it's important for a babyface to let the crowd?
Hmm?
Do you think it's important for a babyface to let the crowd dictate
No,
what?
you should never do that. No, you can't do that because then it would be like everybody's house would all be the same, you know, and everybody'd be living in the same house everywhere. You can't let them do that. No. That's no, you can't do that.
Do you think Vince, Pat Patterson were good bookers? Like, how would you? I mean, better than say like a Bischoff or something like that. Do you think they booked you well?
I don't think nobody could book me well, as well as I'd want to be. No, I think they did a pretty good job. Yeah. On some things, you know. Just,
Did you think at that time they could have? I know they really hardly ever did it, but two heels or two baby faces against each other in a match in the WWF at that time. Why do you think they didn't do that?
I don't know. Yeah, I think you could do it. Sure. But why? I mean,
There's no point.
no, I mean, unless you're trying to make a point.
Mm-hmm.
And an opinion at that point would be what you're setting it up for. Something's got to be there.
Right.
At that time, did you feel that there was a difference in working the main event as compared to the opening matches, or did you go 110% all the time?
110, I went. Didn't matter to me.
Was there some guys that were like that? Took the undercard matches later?
Sure. Sure.
What would you say the main reason that Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff was a successful heel in the WWF at that time? What did you do right that a lot of people didn't do?
Well, see, to me, in my opinion, I was the best heel in this business. The psychology, the things, the body, the moves, everything that there was, to me, who could do it any better? Who had it? And it just sound bragging, yeah, well, I guess it is. Some say, oh, Flair's the best. If you've seen one of his matches, you've seen them all. You know, and I don't know anybody that could have the matches night after night after night the way that I did.
Did you change them up
Just
even on the house shows?
absolutely.
Mhm.
I knew exactly what I did the week before if I'm back in the same town. You know, I took it all that serious, and that's why
Was there
I think I'm
instances?
the best heel that was in the business.
Was there instances in WWF where some of the guys had the same finish in the same town the next time around?
Yeah, sure.
Was there
sure.
anybody in the office who said, "Hey"?
Well, sure, always, you know, always, but it could slip up, you know, it could slip by. It wasn't that bad, though. You wouldn't see that much, because if you're worth anything, then you know, if you watch that, there again, that's why you watch matches.
Right.
And you watch what the match does before you, and you remember what you did last week, and you do that, you know. That's why, and I know, you know, I know how serious and I took it and everything, and the quality of the athlete that they had out there. I don't even think some of these people know that. And you had some good athletes and stuff out there, but there weren't that many really that has been in wrestling. And I know that. I mean, I truly do know it. And there are people out there that know how I feel about that. Yeah, I never had a lot of belts and this and that, you know, because I didn't need them.
Right.
And I was a carpenter. I could make anybody. Anybody. I make anybody look good. I make everybody look bad.
Right.
And the way I work, just the aggressiveness and all the different things and how I did it.
Did you have much input into your matches? Like, with Vince and Patterson, or
Sure. Yeah, if I wanted it. Usually I was pretty easy about everything, and change of,
how much role or how much influence did Hogan have on booking his title runs? Could Vince override him on anything, or
Vince is boss,
or could Hogan like veto anything Vince came up with, or not?
I don't even know that, but I just don't see how anybody could veto the boss.
Right.
And I think that's probably, if there's been any problems with Vince, it's just that. He ain't going to let somebody dictate to him what he can and can't do.
Because you know how the NWA would have the book committee for the world title in the '70s, like with the Briscoes, Dory Sr. and all that.
Yeah.
Was there that kind of a committee in WWF in place at that time, or was it pretty much just Vince and Pat?
Yeah, it was that. Yeah.
Do you think Flair would have done well in the mid '80s in the WWF, or do you think he wouldn't have got over?
I mean, he never got over that good here anyway. I don't see where he's drawn any big money here. Because they pushed him down their throat so much down there, and him having the belt and blah, 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 blah. And I'm not taking nothing. I'm not even hostile or nothing towards him. But, when you've been on TV for 45 years, I mean, it's, I don't. Because of, the bodies we had up here and the way we, you know what I'm saying? His body has never been in the same league, as with us.
How'd you feel about gimmick matches? Cage match, lumberjack. Did you enjoy them, and which ones did you hate to do? And which ones did you like to do?
Well, I don't like anything that would take away from my character and the way that I am. I mean, how I come across. To go out and catch butterflies or something, no, I wouldn't. That wouldn't work for me. A cage match is okay, sometimes, and it's okay. I mean, it's okay to do some of that on occasion, but it can't be said and done. Okay, here's 1 week we do this, and next week we do this, and I think there needs to be a, if it's right, then.
Do you think at that time you were the hottest guy to be repeatedly do jobs all around Hogan, Piper, and all that? Do you feel that you were the guy who remained staying as hot as you were, even though you were losing every night?
Sure. You never saw Piper lose, did you, hardly?
Nope.
He's too little. I mean...
Did it bother you? Piper, Hogan?
Yeah, I don't think ain't nobody shouldn't be beat. Nobody. Ain't nobody that good. Nobody. Because, listen, if it comes down to it, if it'd be me or Piper, and I assure you it wouldn't be me. So, and I look at it that way. I look at it as if it's a mark. And I look at it the way you come across to these people that watch. And the ones that when somebody walks through the line going to the ring, they just move.
Right.
Nobody hung all over me. And they didn't.
All right.
I walked through. They did something, they throw a bottle from the top up there. Jerks. I've had darts thrown in the ring.
Darts?
Missed me about 3 feet.
Wow.
Baltimore. 2 of them.
What were your favorite towns that time?
Ooh. Garden was rough. Boston was rough. Baltimore was rough. There's several of those towns. Pennsylvania, there was some pretty, Philly, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And when I left, what's his name? Forget his name. He used to be the champion?
Who's that?
Lives in Pittsburgh.
Shane Douglas?
No,
Bruno?
Bruno?
yeah.
Bru-
I left his son laying and him laying too.
Ah.
Oh, about 20-something thousand people.
That's not good.
Got real quiet,
Yeah.
real dangerous.
Was there any times that you really, was that one of the times where you really felt like, I'm in trouble here?
Oh yeah, I've had trouble. No, felt like it.
Right.
I had it happen. Chairs, everything.
Wow.
Sure. I kind of liked it, but it's not good. That's dangerous. I mean, it really is, but it's kind of neat to see that you caused a riot. But it's not, back then, I
Do you think a newsletter or internet reporters can objectively, critique a match? Or do you
think they're all full of shit. You want to know the truth. It's like these armchair quarterbacks. Come on. You get in a game, you think you know this, you think you know that. Listen, all they're doing is taking money from you or from this. That's all they're in it for is money. They're selling something. But these people fall for that. These guys, whoever they are, that knows everything, and then they're selling these newsletters to you and because of it. My God.
Right. Can town ever overcome being buried by the office? Like if you were in Vince's doghouse, you were done. Or is there any instances where a guy was in the doghouse and you can overcome that?
You mean like somewhere else?
Well, like if you're like...
Well, I'm here, ain't I? Do I care?
You trained guys at the power plant. What were you looking for right away? Was it...
Something special.
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy that's special. I told him right then he was special. First of all, I had Brock. We could have had him.
Mm-hmm.
Bischoff screwed that.
What happened?
It was probably better for Brock, but I had him if I wanted him. Because, see, I saw him way before they even had him. The second person is Bob Sapp. You heard of Bob?
I heard of Bob, yeah.
I brought Bob, sent me pictures of him, brought him right in. Bob, if you had Brock and Bob, I'm going to tell you something. Which they are going to get together sooner or later.
Right.
It'll just be in Japan.
Yeah.
Bob Sapp is a monster. He threw up. He was one of the guys that threw up. And not only did he throw up, he slid in it. He was running, and he slid and he fell down and slid all the way to the dress case.
Oh.
And he wanted to leave, and I wouldn't let him leave. Now look at Bob. Now there's a freak.
You think he could make it in an American Pro Wrestling company?
Oh, you kidding me? I begged them to use him.
Bischoff didn't. So obviously you don't think Bischoff is a good judge of talent. Raw talent.
I don't know what he is. You want to know the truth? I know that you can't get that close to guys where the guys work you. He was being worked every day.
What other guys did you train there that you saw when they first came in? Like, wow, this guy's got it.
There's about 4 or 5 of them that came up here from WCW. And I never forgot their names.
Did you know Goldberg was gonna?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew Bill. Helped him some. Yep, I helped him.
Who was the most gracious? Was out of the guys who made it? Like that was really there, and you're like, he really wanted it. Was it Goldberg or? Because it seems now Goldberg just doesn't want to be in the business. He was.
It's too hard for him. What's that easy?
Mm-hmm.
God, I can't think of this kid's name. But anyway, doesn't matter.
What happened with the story with Vader? What happened with that exactly?
the same old, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't, was asked to do an interview, and I just signed a big $2 million a year contract. And Kevin Sullivan had asked a couple of people to go, and I said, well, let me see if I can ask him to go do it. And I did it just like that, just like we're here talking. I said, Leon, you mind doing an interview? Because in 15 minutes, they go on break. Because they're union, you know, our people are union. If they go on break, then our show starts at 7, and you can't get it. So that's going to hurt the show
Right.
the following week. Well, I don't know what his deal was, but you know, he started the swearing and this and that, whatever. And before it was over with, he sucker punched me, and he made a mistake. I got up. Yeah. Got up right on the chin. He went down, and I put the boots to him, and he lost $2 million.
Wow.
2 plus 2.3, if I'm not mistaken.
Have you guys ever spoken since or no?
Do you think if it was maybe not as corporate as it was, if it was a Watts locker room, you still would have been there? And Leon might have been let go?
Well, they did let him go.
Okay, they let him go. Oh, okay.
No, they let him
Okay.
go. No, they called the corporate office. You know, they were all not subpoenaed, but they were all asked by the lawyers and everything.
So it went that far with all that?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I mean, you kidding? You can't hit an employee unless the employee hits you back first, which I didn't. I should have sued him. I wish I had it now. Let another one go by.
Do you think the power plant
You
was...
really think I'm a badass and I'm bragging about it, but you're asking me these questions,
Right.
and gotta tell you. What's that?
Do you think the power plant was successful?
Yes, it really could have been. I mean, we had it set up really, really nice. Joan, what's her name? Joan, they came and did a show, you know, where she jumps out of airplanes and riding jets and does all these different stuff. Joan, yeah, it used to be.
A stunt woman? No?
No, she don't do these. I
Ah.
mean, she tries them. Whatever you're into, like she rode in the Blue Angels, whatever it is.
Oh, okay, I know. I think
What's
I know.
it called? Back something door?
I think I know what you're talking about.
What's it called? Joe. Well, anyway, she called it the Harvard of professional wrestling. And we really did. We had a beautiful place. I had it set up the way
Was
I
it the
wanted.
girl from Good Morning America?
Yeah,
Joan London?
there you go.
Okay.
Isn't that it?
Yeah.
I think so.
Joan London, yeah.
Yeah.
Blonde hair.
Yeah, nice lady, really nice, and yeah, and she saw what these guys and girls, they went through. The girls were with us too, and you know how we put them through it and everything. And she got a whole different respect for it, and yeah, it was the place was nice. It was really good.
A lot of people give Vince McMahon the term genius. Do you think that's correct? And what's
Okay.
your relationship with him now?
Fine, I guess, you know. He had a lot more to lose than we did. But let me tell you, without the talent, which you're seeing, if you, like you said, you know, and not only me, but everybody that watches it and sees it in there, if you don't have the talent,
What can you
you
do?
know, what can you do? I mean, it's all for none. He had some really good talent back then. I mean, there were so many different type characters. It just bunch of freaks, and you had a bunch of guys that wanted to make. You had guys that just type guys that would always, kind of going against the wind. And you had guys that wanted to make this thing happen, and it did. You had rebels back then, and the timing and everything, and him being, young and kind of likes to gamble, I guess, a little bit, just to take it to a new level that's never been done. Absolutely. I mean, he was sure, but he's had good people to work with. It's, yeah, I guess you would have to say he's, he had a ballsy type guy, and but he had guys that could back him up too. Let's say that much. He had talent that could back him up.
I'm going to take a quote from yourself. I don't know where it was from, but you said that the downfall of the WWF Championship is when they put it on Savage. Can you explain that?
He's a total gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
Total gimmick. Coming out with all that stuff on and everything. Total gimmick.
What's your opinion of guys like Savage, guys like Flair, still working and all that? And if you were healthy, would you want to be working at this time? The way the business is?
I guarantee you I'd look better than Flair does. I damn sure wouldn't be in that ring.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you could, would you ever want to be a manager in the business, or even on a
I
role?
think I'd be good at it. Yeah, I do. I do. Especially with somebody that needs guidance. Somebody, I mean, you can't, I've always been attracted, or I've always been to older people. And it's because they got wisdom. I don't care what it is. You know what I'm saying by being attracted? I've always, you see an old fella or this, you can tell he's he's old, and just wonder what he's been through. It's like that old oak tree out there.
You just want to question them.
Well, yeah, you want to hear. You want to see. You want to see their outlook on stuff, or what do you think about this war over there now?
You want to soak up their knowledge and all
yeah,
that.
or their take on it.
Mm-hmm.
They've been there. They've seen it. They've done it. Been through it. You can't beat experience, man. You can't beat it.
What happened at the Hall of Fame? Somebody said, were you upset at Hogan with that or no?
I wonder if they had to pay all those people out there to clap. Either that, or he didn't have much of a comeback. I don't know. To clap and get up and down. For what? No. I wasn't. I got up and did it one time, and I said, "The hell with this! I'm not getting up and down."
Right.
Bunch of marks.
Right.
You think it had anything to do with this show? That they probably paid all those people out there to do that?
What's the story of Tito Santana and barbecued beans?
You ever tried to put barbecued beans on a grill?
No.
Then you're as bad as he is.
No.
They keep, that was just stuff
Right.
that, I can remember doing the interviews and stuff, and Bobby Heenan would give me a lot of good ideas with him, Tito.
Is he the best one-line guy?
Who, Bobby?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him doing, he could do one of these nights. He could be like Jay Leno, the other guy, you remember?
Mm-hmm.
The second guy or his chair guy or somebody like that. Yeah. Yeah.
As a trainer at the power plant, like what would you tell a wrestler walks in? What would you tell these guys, like off the bat?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them?
Well, I'd let them talk to me first. I want to hear. Tell me, talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
Give me your background. Which they'd always, usually, well, not usually, always. I'd have them to send me a sort of like a resume, what they've done, been through. The whole deal. how old they are, you know, stuff like this. And then if it looked like it could be, if there's something special, to me, you got to have somebody that's special, somebody that looks special. And if you watch, a lot of times, even with WCW, these guys would walk through the airport with shorts and stuff on, and people not even know 'em. But then you let somebody walk through the airport, like one of the, you know, the older timer guys and everything. You'd be surprised that the people just stare at, you know, just look at them when they walk by or this. And I, you know, I looked at that, and that's, you gotta be something different than ordinary. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's why, you know, like,
You have to look the part.
well, yeah, but you need to be different looking. Right. Something's got to be different, special about you. It's like on TV and your movie stars. Usually there's something different. There's something different about them. You know, Bob Sapp and Brock, you know, people like that. You walk through an airport, every one of them, everybody in that airport's going to look at them.
Right.
Right? Same thing with Hogan. He walks through the air. Of course, he's got a big name and everything.
Right.
But even for Bob and them, now all you got to do, and I mean, with any NFL or anybody else, this guy here, Bob Sapp is a freak.
Right.
375 pounds, 4 1/4. Got abs.
Right. In basketball, they always say a good, you know, same skill, a good 6'10" guy is better than a 6'5" guy if they're same talent, but a bigger man's always better. Do you think that's the same in wrestling? If they're both good, but the bigger guy will always a better big man.
Well, that's different. That's a little difference. I mean, it depends. No, not when it comes to wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't mean when you're talking about the main event, and like in boxing, very few, the lighter weights. There's only a few
main event.
That make it. You know, this one coming up here now. It's getting ready to fight. Yeah, that's going to be good. You know, but those guys have, you know, Sugar Ray and people like that. There's not that many of them.
Right.
It's your heavyweights that draw.
Tyson, your Foreman.
I mean, most of the time, not all the time, but you're going to have, and when you got these other guys, boy, then you got a heck of a card. But I mean, a big guy is okay, but there's got to be something special there. I mean, he just because he's big doesn't. No. Now, if I'm 6 foot and he's 6'6" and he's fat and I got a body like I used to have, who do you think they're going to look at? They're going to look at me.
For a person who trained and did that with WCW, what's your opinion of Tough Enough?
Tough Enough.
The TV show, WWE with Al Snow training guys at the house.
I have not even seen it. I haven't watched wrestling. I haven't watched his show.
Do you think with Vince, okay, well I guess maybe you wouldn't know, I was just saying, my question was, do you think Vince puts too much emphasis on the muscular looking guy these days? And pushes them even if they don't even have as much talent as some of the other guys?
Well, sure. Yeah, I mean, well, let's face it. I mean, if you don't have any talent and you don't have a body, that's really bad. Mm-hmm. But if you got a body, at least, you know. And I don't know if I'm saying stuff about, you know, what I think I would do if they were up there, this or that. And I hope that's what you kind of asked him. Mm-hmm. If I was in charge up there, what would I kind of do?
Right.
You know, and
did they come to you for advice? The office, WCW, did they go?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did they listen?
In the beginning.
What changed?
When they became desperate. You start doing stuff desperate. You know? You gotta have a plan.
What was the main reason WCW went out, in your opinion?
I don't think Time Warner really ain't into sports.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they just wanted out. Just totally get out of it. They're not in the sports business. You know, they're in the computer business.
WWE is having a big thing with the legends with videotapes. Bret Hart tape, Jake Roberts, Flair.
That'd be good. I think that'd be great.
Have they approached you yet?
Yes. Mm-hmm. You mean the tapes and stuff?
Best of Mr. Wonderful
Yeah.
DVD set.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Going back to Bruiser Brody, you said that you talked earlier. Do you think he could have
Yes.
conformed to the way wrestling is now, in the structure and everything, or do you think he?
Oh, could he conform and well, it depends how much money he had.
He'd probably still be wrestling though today, obviously.
When I worked with him and he was ahead of me back then, let me tell you, he was a big old boy now.
Right.
And he could move. And he had an attitude. He didn't take no from nobody. Of course, he's dead because of it, but other than that,
Mm-hmm. Why? Kind of in closing, what do you think the fans today? There's such a fascination with the '80s WWF period of wrestling. Why is that? What separates your class above everybody else?
because we were just damn good. All of us. All of us. We give them laughter, we give them seriousness, we give them happiness. I mean, we gave them everything that they wanted emotionally when they went there. And if you think about it, I mean, I really believe that. I think we really did. You know, when they left the show, they were probably pretty tired most of the time, because they had seen it all, buddy, and they had had one hell of a show. I don't think they're getting the money's worth anymore. You want to know the truth?
One more question. As a person who trained a lot of younger wrestlers in the
Mhm.
current state, now just with WWE, if you were to give advice to a young wrestler who was to go to WWE for the first time, maybe to do TV or whatever, and they came up to you for advice, give me some advice, Mr. Wonderful, what would you say to that person?
Learn how to work a hole. Learn how to work. Work. When you go there, know how to work if you can,
Mhm.
which is going to be hard to do. Be different. Don't just flip-flop all over the place. We got 50 guys that can do that. You know, learn how to work a hold. You know, and do some spots and just, God. You know, you got a guy like Chris Benoit, and he's about as close as you're going to get to doing that up there. What's the other kid's name? The big kid.
Who's that?
WWF. He knows how to do that. Married to Vince's daughter.
Oh,
Triple H.
Yeah. He knows how to work. You know, he can work. He's good. They just, you know, it just depends. I mean, they got so many people and they're so deep in these positions. And if they want them to come in there, then that's a good thing. Then they must see something special in it. Then be special. Do that. Do and watch and see. You know, look around, see what you need to do, and watch your matches and see what they're doing before you. And you know what I mean. How many moves? Many times they did this one move. Be different than everybody else. And to me, that's what I tried to do. Dadgummit, I tried to be different. Be different.
If you could change one thing in professional wrestling, if you had the opportunity, I'm going to do one thing to make pro wrestling go back to the way it was, what would you do today? December 2005, what's the one thing you would do?
I wouldn't be here telling you every damn thing I just told you. That's what I'd do.
In closing, is there anything you'd like to say to your fans?
See you later.
Thank you.